Since I was a kid running around naked in the rain, I never imagined a gang of thugs could be as evil and brutal as these guys. Every day, they roam around, doing their evil deeds and spreading white death to thousands of innocent people. Anyone who dares to stand up to them gets a one-way ticket to meet the Grim Reaper. They don't care about being nice or about right and wrong. If you're a thorn in their side, they'll wipe that smile off your face. If you're lucky, they'll just cut off your hand. If not, you'll be visiting home only on holidays as a spirit. But they were incredibly stupid to mess with this guy. He looks like a harmless, gentle guy, but actually, he's a notorious kingpin, fresh out of prison. And to make things worse, some dumbasses dared to kidnap his girlfriend and did some messed up stuff to her. So, how does his journey to destroy this criminal syndicate go down? Or just how terrifying are these guys? Find out in a gang action flick that will make even old Mrs. Sao, who's busy eating at a death anniversary feast across the river, hop on a motorbike taxi to the cinema to see Out 2023. This death row inmate smashing up the wall here is named Tatsuya. He looks like a total psycho, but nobody would guess that he used to be the leader of a notorious gang. He started training in martial arts when he was a kid, getting his black belt in karate before he even learned to ride a bike. You'd think he was destined for a future as a fighting legend, but life had other plans. Tatsuya's parents were murdered by some lowlifes, leaving him homeless on the streets. He ended up working as a debt collector for a bunch of loan sharks. To make ends meet, Tatsuya became this fearless badass who didn't give a damn about anything. He'd take on any tough guy, no problem. Anyone who mouthed off would get a one-way ticket to the hospital for some serious bone setting. Then, out of the blue, one day, he and his gang got into a huge brawl, a real free-for-all. But it must have been his unluckiest day ever, because the cops showed up and busted him. And that's how he ended up with a nice long sentence to enjoy some quality time in the slammer. Because of the wild nature of a 15-year-old kid, the warden makes Tatsuya fold a billion paper cranes to control his temper. Gradually, the day of his release arrives, and his uncle doesn't forget to tell his nephew to live a good life. However, Tatsuya replies, "It's none of your business." Right then, two guys walk by and laugh, saying, "That guy just graduated from ant farming school in prison. With that dumb look on his face, he's gonna be single for a long time." As a leader, being disrespected by two punks, Tatsuya's hot blood rushed to his brain, and he charged in with a double flying kick. "If you guys are asking for it, I'll gladly give it to you." In just 3 moves, he knocked them to the floor. The prison guards rushed to break it up, otherwise, there would be a murder. And so once again, Tatsuya was sent to fold paper cranes for another year. After receiving dedicated care, he gradually changed his attitude and was reintegrated into the community. Unexpectedly, the 2 big guys from before also happened to pass by. But upon seeing Tatsuya, they immediately greeted him and bowed. Where should he go? Where could he return to now that his parents are gone? But he was very lucky that a kind aunt, who sold food in the city, let him crash at her place, so he wouldn't get mixed up with his old gang again. Even though Tatsuya works really hard, during this time he is still being watched by a 4-eyed inspector. If you dare to double-cross me and do something bad, you'll definitely be drafted back to Juventus. Understand? And as for you two, you need to keep an eye on this rebellious kid, or he might just burn your house down one day. Furious, Tatsuya wanted to rush in and beat the guy up, but he had to suppress his anger. Afterward, Tatsuya had to vent his frustrations on a lamppost. Mad as hell, he launched a kick, but unexpectedly stepped right into a pile of dog poop. As if that wasn't bad enough, a girl was watching him from a distance. Turning around, he saw it was Chihiro, the beauty Tatsuya had a secret crush on. She was skeptical. What's with you picking up leaves, kicking cans, dreaming, and then writing poetry about a utility pole early in the morning? After saying that, she walked into the mall, leaving Tatsuya standing there with a minefield under his feet. Maybe putting his underwear on his head would be the only way to lessen the embarrassment at this point. On the way back, Tatsuya's attention was unintentionally drawn to a big motorcycle. Suddenly, the owner of the bike appeared and said, "You raggedy-ass hobo, get away from my ride." Tatsuya apologized and started to leave, but the guy kept going. "If you can take 3 hits from me, then if you like anything about this bike, I spoil you." Without much talk, Tatsuya replied, "You think I'm scared of you?" With that, the two went into an alley. Even though he was smaller and shorter than the other guy, Tatsuya was incredibly agile. He didn't counter, just dodged every attack. This guy was throwing some decent punches. He looked the part, but it was clear he didn't stand a chance. He went into a fit of rage and rushed in throwing punches. But Tatsuya immediately got the upper hand. When the guy kept stubbornly resisting, Tatsuya gave him a taste of a headbutt. Still not backing down, he saw that Tatsuya was smaller, so he pulled out his final move, sumo wrestling. However, Tatsuya could handle anything, so he immediately flexed his butt muscles, tightened his groin, and resisted fiercely, not giving the guy a chance to take him down. Tatsuya bided his time, then ran straight at the wall and bounced back to gain the upper hand. He quickly grabbed the guy's waist, lifted him high, and slammed him to the ground in pain. He said, "Never underestimate others, understand?" As Tatsuya was about to leave, the guy called out to him, "I've got a favor to ask. Let's keep this between us. I'm Konami, the vice leader of the Falcon Gang. If this gets out, it'll be a huge embarrassment." Knowing this guy was also a gangster, Tatsuya was intrigued and went over to get to know him better. After they lit up cigarettes for each other to build some good vibes, he also revealed, "I used to be a gang leader back in my hometown. I had to come up here to turn over a new leaf and get my act together. I don't want to get involved in any illegal stuff now." Konami, the blonde guy, quickly explained, "Our gang was formed to enforce justice because the law isn't always there to protect what's right. The Falcons are always recruiting talented people. One guy's a judo master, ready to go all out against criminals with his killer takedown moves. This stylish guy who looks like a cool Batman is a karate expert. No matter how many enemies he faces, they're all going down. Next up is the master of kendo, whose killer hairstyle would make even rockstar legends bow down to him. There's also Shogo, a former disciple of the Shaolin Temple. Nobody can beat his shadowless bone technique. If he's number 2, nobody dares to be number 1. The guy with the bowl cut is also really tough. He used to be a Muay Thai fighter who busted many people up with his awesome knee technique. And the one with the killer hook, that's me, Konami. Once I've got my sights on someone, they'll be in the hospital, being spoon-fed by their loved ones for days. If not, I'll send them straight to the bottom of the ocean to hang out with Aquaman." However, the most fearsome person in the Falcon Gang is the leader, Atsushi. It's said that he's been practicing martial arts since he was in his mother's womb, so there's not a single day that he can be defeated. He can take on 10 guys with his bare hands. The Falcon Gang's membership has now reached the hundreds, and they're still looking for more people to join their righteous cause. Hearing this, Tatsuya got excited. However, thinking about the four-eyed inspector's threat to throw him in jail, Tatsuya immediately refused, saying, "I can't," and then left. That afternoon, Konami, the blonde guy, came to Tatsuya's aunt's shop to eat barbecue. Seeing his newly acquainted friend, Tatsuya was afraid his aunt would beat him up for still hanging out with gangsters. But Konami was surprisingly polite and well-mannered, like a real Westerner, so he quickly won over Tatsuya's aunt. Suddenly, the TV news reported a car accident that sent 5 people to the afterlife. According to the investigation, the driver was high on flour, causing him to be totally out of it and leading to this horrible tragedy. That's when Konami, the blonde, told Tatsuya about a really scary drug gang in this area called the Hunting Dogs, led by Kazumasa's wife. Wherever they go, they spread evil, ruining thousands of families. And they won't hesitate to send anyone who gets in the way of their business to the underworld. They're getting bolder every day. The first leader of the Falcon Gang had proof of the Hunting Dogs' drug dealing, so they ran him over with a car, crushing him to eliminate the evidence. After that, Atsushi took over, but he hasn't been able to get revenge on them yet. Kazumasa's 2 right-hand men are Koji and Kenzo, the one with the scar on his face. Koji is an underground fighter with immense and ferocious strength. Kenzo, on the other hand, is known as the Nunchaku God, hitting his target every time. He has a huge scar on his face, so he always wears a muzzle to look handsome, and his hair is all slicked back. Hearing this, Tatsuya understood more about the gangs in this area, but just stood there with his arms crossed, watching. That night, the Hunting Dogs gang, led by Kazumasa, gathered at a bar. He rewarded his henchmen, who had the highest sales for the month, to boost their morale. Then he announced, "Whoever sells a pound of Omo laundry detergent, I'll give them a car. You gotta work to get paid. If you don't work and still want to eat, you'll only eat shit, you understand?" Suddenly, the Pig Hauling Street gang showed up. Their leader, named Hairy Mouth, said, "Blood debts must be paid in blood. You get my meaning?" After that, they brought a young guy in a wheelchair, his face bruised and swollen, with black eyes and a busted lip, in front of the gang leader, Kazumasa, and continued, "Your guys put my little brother in the hospital. The hospital bill is 1 million yen. Knowing that these guys were here to stir up trouble and extort money, Kenzo, the nunchaku master, put on his mask and spoke up. "You little punks looking for a beating?" Unexpectedly, the boss, Kazumasa, smashed a bottle over Kenzo's head as an apology to these guys. Then, he took out 1,000,000 yen, handed it to them, and said, "From now on, no one owes anyone anything." This made the big shot, Hairy Mouth, and his crew laugh like they'd just become fathers. Koji, furious, rushed down and asked his boss, "Let me turn these guys into mincemeat." But Kazumasa stopped him, saying, "Just let me handle this." He continued, "I have a proposal. If you can beat me, I'll give you 10,000,000 yen right away. I've got nothing but money. If you lose, you'll only lose 2,000,000 yen. And if anyone's scared, they can go home." Hairy Mouth didn't want to lose face, especially since 10,000,000 yen was a huge amount of money. So he immediately agreed. "If you are willing, then I have the Nam-ku fish sauce." Right away, he took off his shirt to show off his ripped, muscular physique, then charged in to trade blows with Kazumasa. At first, they seemed evenly matched. One was as fast as an X turning on you, and the other was built like a moving oil drum. Kazumasa jumped in and took Hairy Mouth down, and then they both started unleashing submission holds. It wasn't just about strength, they also had to be smart to take each other down. Kazumasa jumped up and locked in a chokehold, then slammed Hairy Mouth to the ground to go for a shoulder lock, then switched it up to a headlock. Hairy Mouth tried to break free, but failed because he got elbowed in the head. After a while of smelling like a fermented shrimp paste factory, and with Kazumasa's legs locked tightly around him, Hairy Mouth couldn't breathe and fell into a dazed state. His crew on the outside saw this and tried to rush in, but they were quickly taken out by Kenzo, the nunchaku master, and Koji in a flash. "Now cough up the 2,000,000 yen, or I'll send you to the hospital," Hairy Mouth said. "I don't have any money." Kazumasa thought for a moment, then calmly said, "Then I'll take back the 1,000,000 from before, and I'll take your hand." With that, Kazumasa pulled out a knife and made a swift, clean cut. On the other side, Kaname, a new friend, after stuffing himself, invited Tatsuya to hang out at the headquarters of the gang, the Falcons. "Don't you worry, we're all cultured, pure as snow, crystal clear. We even have to rinse our mouths at home after a loud swear." However, Tatsuya stuck to his guns, not wanting to get mixed up in the underworld. Sure enough, just after Kaname left, and before Tatsuya could even light up a smoke, the four-eyed inspector and his sidekick showed up. The cop snatched the pack of cigarettes and said, "That guy's a gangster. Why are you hanging out with that kind of people?" Tatsuya, indignant, "Not all gangsters are bad." Fortunately, his uncle came to the rescue, telling Tatsuya to go buy some kimchi, or there would be trouble. It seemed like the inspector was plotting something, and was keeping a close eye on Tatsuya. After buying the kimchi and heading out, he bumped into his buddy Kaname. "Wanna go throw some bowling balls with me, bro?" To blow off some steam, Tatsuya immediately hopped on his ride, and the two of them hit the road. When they arrived, they saw an incense burner smoking at the base of a wall. His buddy explained that this was the spot where the former boss of the Falcons gang was killed in a hit and run by the hunting dogs. Inside, they ran into Ryo, a guy who was rumored to have trained at the Shaolin Temple. He was being nagged by his older sister to come home and do the dishes, according to the schedule. "If you don't do it, you'll be eating pig slop tomorrow. You hear?" Tatsuya, fresh out of jail and seeing a beautiful woman, his eyes lit up like high beams, and he blurted out, "What do you eat to be so pretty?" His sister, annoyed, snapped back, "I'm gonna tell mom on you." With that, the beautiful sister stormed off, leaving Ryo furious and blaming the whole thing on Tatsuya. Turns out, it wasn't just Ryo, all the top dogs of the Falcons gang were there too. Seeing a stranger, they all swarmed him, asking, "Who's this piece of trash?" To make matters worse, they spotted the bag of kimchi in his hand and started treating him like he was some kind of alien, then burst out laughing like they'd hit the jackpot. "You a delivery boy or a kimchi maker, kid? Get lost, this ain't your scene." Tatsuya, boiling with rage, fired back, "You punks need to learn some respect for your teeth." Suddenly, he threw a furious punch that felt like a ton of bricks. Then Tatsuya dropped a rap. "I don't fear heaven or hell, but I'm damn scared of going to jail." After all, he used to be the leader of a notorious biker gang, and was just trying to avoid fighting these days. The guy with the slicked back hair asked, "I bet you're a great cyclist." Tatsuya cursed under his breath. "Kaname, what the hell kind of place have you brought me to?" Just then, the gang leader, Atsushi, suddenly appeared. Tatsuya, not knowing who he was, said, "Who's this ambiguous-looking person? They're not quite male, and not female either." Seeing this, the gang members became furious. Atsushi then jumped up and delivered a flying kick to show he was not just a recently fried bean. "No matter how cool you are, I still think you're a woman with a man's precious part." Seeing the trouble, his buddy Kaname jumps in to break it up. This is my gang leader. What the hell are you saying? Tatsuya, now furious, is about to teach everyone a lesson when suddenly, a girl named Chihiro shows up. The whole gang immediately bows respectfully. Even Atsushi freezes, acting like a well-behaved puppy, quickly explaining it was all just a misunderstanding. He can't believe his dream girl could make a whole gang tremble in fear. While Tatsuya is still stunned, gang leader Atsushi orders everyone to scatter and go home. At this moment, his close friend Kaname explained that Chihiro is the younger sister of the former leader of the Falcon Gang, who was murdered by the hunting dogs a year ago. So we always respect and protect her like a star. Because her brother passed away here, Chihiro has vowed to work part-time at this bowling alley to pay her respects every day. We've also chosen this place as the gang's hangout. After understanding everything, the gang leader Atsushi suddenly appeared, apologized for the misunderstanding, and then the two shook hands to reconcile and get acquainted. At the same time, outside, the hunting dogs gang was holding a ceremony to welcome members of the Falcon Gang. They wanted to expand their territory, so they had to eliminate those who stood in their way. The gang leader, Kazumasa, even cut off this guy's hand as a warning. Upon receiving this news, the next day, Atsushi summoned all the core leaders of the gang to a meeting to discuss strategy. Tatsuya also came, and seeing his crush lighting incense for her late brother, he asked, and she said that today was his birthday. It's just a pity that they were now separated by life and death. I hate gangs, and I hate violence even more. It made my only loved one pass away. Hearing this, Tatsuya felt a pang of regret for his past recklessness. He rushed over and started banging his head against the wall as a sign of repentance. I was lost, and I deeply regret it. Seeing Tatsuya's forehead bleeding, Chihiro gently cleaned the wound, moving Tatsuya to tears and a runny nose. As she was wiping, the two suddenly noticed the hunting dogs gang entering the bowling alley. Surprised, these guys suddenly appeared. Kaname said, "What? Did you punks come here to die? If I remember correctly, you just got your asses kicked yesterday. Now, you will pay." Chihiro stepped in and said righteously, "Every land has its local deity. Every river has its lord. Who's this damn woman?" Seeing that, the beautiful lady got angry and slapped this guy. Unexpectedly, he didn't care for her beauty, and immediately returned a 5-finger slap to her face. Tatsuya was stunned to see his crush get slapped. He went crazy and rushed up to confront him. "You bastard, how dare you do that?" Kazumasa was suspicious. "You look kind of familiar, but I don't think we've ever met. I'm Tatsuya, just got out of jail." Hearing this, Kazumasa mocked. Did the Falcons just hire a new dog to guard the house or what? Tatsuya, enraged, was about to charge in when Kenzo stopped him, leaving his head flowing with 2 bowls of bright red blood. Catching sight of Chihiro, he remembered what she had said earlier about not wanting any bloodshed here, so he held himself back and said, "Please don't fight here, settle things somewhere else." However, Kenzo retorted, "Are you my dad or something that I have to listen to your stinking mouth?" With that, he was about to attack again. But luckily, gang leader Atsushi stopped him just in time. "We have a few dozen people, so you guys can't beat us." The tough guy Koji was about to make a move, but was restrained by the master of Kendo. Seeing that the situation seemed unfavorable, Kazumasa lowered his voice and said, "Today, I just want to question you guys. Tomorrow there will be more drama. If you cooperate with us in the drug business, nothing will happen." Gang leader Atsushi immediately declared, "Karma will get you, you bastards. All the Falcon brothers will never do anything illegal." Before leaving, they left a sentence, "Just wait." The next day, gang leader Atsushi suddenly appeared at the diner. However, Tatsuya didn't like that at all, and thought that nothing good would happen if the 4-eyed inspector saw him there. "So I can't even come to eat?" Tatsuya was at a loss for words when a voice rang out. "So, is it okay if we look for you?" It turned out that besides Atsushi, there were 3 thugs from the hunting dogs gang. Last night, Tatsuya had challenged them, so the big boss Kazumasa sent his henchmen here to cause trouble. "You said we shouldn't fight at the bowling alley, so can we settle our grudges here? We want to take this place back to the Stone Age." Hearing these threats, Tatsuya didn't want to affect his aunt and uncle's diner, so he apologized to them. Seeing this, the 3 guys laughed like apes, who had just scored a bunch of bananas. The leader, scared of a leaky roof, put on a hat and said, "Stick with the Falcons and you won't have a place to live. Go against us, and you'll get your faces smashed in." Tatsuya was about to teach these 3 a lesson when, luckily, his aunt showed up to break things up, telling him to go get the stove started. After stuffing themselves, these 3 thugs packed up to leave, but Atsushi was waiting for them. "How about a little martial arts exchange, you 3 morons?" One of them asked. "Is that a guy or a girl?" "Doesn't matter, we'll punch anyone." Atsushi smiled and immediately jumped in, headbutting one of them, making his nose turn red. They thought that being gangsters meant they could disrespect anyone, but they ran into a martial arts master. Just a few punches, plus some killer knee strikes, and the three guys were sent to meet their maker. Atsushi, furious, kept stomping their faces in. Tatsuya came out to light a cigarette and was surprised to see the three guys from earlier lying on the ground. And the author of this was none other than Atsushi. Right after, the two rode their bikes to the beach for a heart-to-heart. Atsushi then extended an invitation to Tatsuya to join the Falcons gang, reminding him that he used to be a talented leader. Moreover, there were numerous hunting dogs, and if they didn't want them running wild, they needed to join forces to take them down. However, Tatsuya replied, "I know what I need to do, but I will never be anyone's underling." Atsushi, annoyed by this, jumped on his bike, revved the engine, and told Tatsuya to stay, forcing him to run a marathon back home. On the other side of town, Kazumasa and a few of his yes ladies were having a feast, likely to celebrate their earlier accomplishments. This big guy is the leader of the motorbike gang, but Kazumasa had previously sliced off one of his ears. After that defeat, he had to join the hunting dogs to make a living. Otherwise, he would starve. Kazumasa said, "We will destroy the Falcon gang, don't disappoint me. The important thing is to find out their secret hideout." When everyone was confused, Koji spotted a girl, none other than the older sister of Ryo, a member of the Falcon gang. Realizing that this was the ace in the hole, Kazumasa immediately came up with a plan. On the other side, the core leaders of the Falcon gang were having a party at the diner where Tatsuya worked. Now boys, don't be shy. But when the drinks start flowing, no fighting, okay? Kanami reassured her, "We're all good kids." After his aunt left, Tatsuya's crush, Chihiro, also came to join the fun. Tatsuya, trying to impress a girl, brags that he's the manager of this restaurant, but the real owner suddenly appears behind him. "Hurry up and get more charcoal for the customer, or your pay will be docked at the end of the month." Chihiro realizes what's going on. "And I thought you were the manager." This makes everyone burst out laughing, and Tatsuya, completely humiliated, walks away to escape the embarrassment. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kazumasa has cornered Ryo's older sister and forces her to call her brother to extract information. Left with no other choice, Ryo has to betray his friends to protect his sister. Having gotten the location of the Falcons gang's secret base, Kazumasa immediately orders everyone to move out. Over at the restaurant, after stuffing themselves, everyone heads back to their base to plan their next move. Kanami hands his car keys to one of his guys, telling him to wait outside so he can have a word with his friend Tatsuya. He advises Tatsuya, "Stay out of the Falcons' business from now on. Don't make your aunt and uncle worry." Tatsuya brushes it off, saying, "I always know how to control myself and won't let things get out of hand." Kanami suddenly punches Tatsuya in the face, leaving him stunned and indignant. "Don't make your loved ones sad." Those words and actions sparked Tatsuya's anger, and he slammed his friend to the ground with one hand. Kanami scrambles up, still trying to say, "I regret taking you to that bowling alley. If you get involved in fights, you'll have to go back to jail." Right then, the beautiful Chihiro shows up, so Kanami decides to leave. However, Tatsuya still sniped. "Don't act all tough and try to lecture others." Kanami, speechless, just turns around and walks away. Later, Tatsuya walks Chihiro home. She tells him that Kanami rarely expresses what he's thinking, but this time he does the opposite, which shows he cares about him. This makes Tatsuya think that Kanami is a good friend and isn't trying to act superior or lecture him. Suddenly, his dream girl compliments him, saying he's cute but a bit stubborn, and then flashes a smile that fills Tatsuya with happiness. On the other side of town, after leaving, Kanami and his bowl-cut hair friend are pumping gas, when two cars suddenly pull up. Turns out it's the hunting dogs gang, carrying out their plan to ambush the Falcons. Leading these 30 guys is Kenzo, who says, "If you two join us, you won't have to go to the hospital for bone treatment." Despite being threatened, Kanami remained eerily calm. But Kenzo keeps saying, "Your secret hideout has been discovered, and we've got it surrounded. So no one's coming to rescue you. Your buddy Tatsuya will also be taken good care of." Shocked by the ambush, Kanami yells not to touch Tatsuya. Then, the two immediately jump in and start throwing hands. Even though Kanami's shoulder is still sore from Tatsuya's earlier slam, these punks are no match for him. He turns their faces into mortars, his fists the pestles, pounding them until they're seeing stars. This bowl-cut wearing dude is a kung fu master too, so those hunting dogs are going to be sprawled out taking a beating. His legs are like guillotines, and he's just as agile as his big bro Kanami. Once he unleashes his ultimate moves, these guys will instantly be spitting blood, no joke. One guy comes, and one guy drops. Two guys come. He jumps up and kicks them both to death, but they were seriously outnumbered. As Kaname was backed into a corner, on the other side, Kenzo had already started. Counting on his weapon, he swings his nunchucks with deadly precision. Looking like he wants to take out Bowl Cut, Kaname tries to rush in, but one guy can't fight off 20. Kenzo gets in his car and rams it straight into Kaname, launching him across the road, probably breaking both sides of his ribs. Even while half dead, Kaname still manages to say not to harm Tatsuya. But 20 guys, led by Koji, have already appeared in front of the restaurant, looking like a bunch of crazies wandering around. Knowing they're here to start trouble, Tatsuya tells them to take it somewhere else. But Koji suddenly slams his head through the window, shattering the glass and terrifying the old couple inside. Tatsuya's aunt threatens to call the police. Koji smirks. Go ahead, because your nephew will be in jail before me. He grabs an umbrella from the corner and attacks the uncle's head. Tatsuya tries to stop him but gets beaten down. The uncle also jumps in, but can't fight them off. Meanwhile, gang leader Atsushi is completely unaware of what's going on. He's still at the arcade with his top kendo master, but then orders him to head back first, while he stays behind for some peace. As soon as the kendo guy arrives at the secret base, Kazumasa and a few dozen of his crew suddenly show up. Immediately, an all-out brawl breaks out. As a skilled kendo goalkeeper, he tried to grab a baseball bat to beat these punks to a pulp. Not stopping there, Kazumasa also ordered his goons to take care of the remaining guys at the auto scrapyard. What are you raggedy-ass punks doing here? The guy with the mutton chop says, well, we just need a little blood to make some blood pudding. From the Falcon side, human blood is nasty. Not letting them run wild, everyone jumps in, creating a massive free-for-all. Over 100 people start throwing down, no one giving a damn who their daddy is. The curly-haired big shot uses his judo skills to send these guys flying. With a temper as hot as ice cream showing no mercy, and taking on 10 guys at once, that's just another thing for our blonde-haired beansprout. He might look like a pretty boy, but he's a notorious karate master. One hit from him, and his enemies are on the floor, crying for their mamas. Some get their skulls tested against steel bars. Others get caught red-handed while trying to get busy. Even worse, some get planted face first into a glass door, while others get a fist to the face. The guy with the hairy mouth isn't any less formidable. But against our blonde hero, he's no match. Thinking he was dead, he walked away, but curly hair spotted him and slammed him into a shipping container. Unexpectedly, this guy was tougher than a leech that hadn't fed in weeks. He used curly hair like a punching bag to practice his kicks, but it was a close fight, and both were enraged, going at each other like crazy. However, it seemed like the goon had the upper hand, giving curly hair such a beating to his teeth that he fell to the ground. Not willing to die at the hands of this scumbag, curly hair focused his energy, furiously knocked his opponent out, and then added a bonus punch that felt like a ton of bricks. Right at this moment, the cops showed up, so everyone scattered, trying to get out of there. Mr. Hairy Mouth couldn't even get up, so he had to ask the cops to help him get to the station, for some tea to cool down his stomach. Things went the opposite way at the secret base. Kazumasa sneakily stabbed the kendo master, then added a punch for good measure, knocking him to the floor before he left. Tatsuya and his grandpa got roughed up too, and their shop got trashed. While he was feeling down, he got the news that his best friend Kaname and the guy with the bowl cut were in the hospital in critical condition. Tatsuya rushed over to find them both in a deep coma. The head honcho, Kenzo, ambushed them at a gas station. They ended up with 15 broken teeth and a fractured skull, and there's a chance they might end up in a vegetative state. Hearing this news, Tatsuya was completely stunned. Atsushi, the gang leader, stood up, ready to go after these guys and settle the score, but Chihiro stopped him, saying not to underestimate their opponents. Atsushi replied, I've never underestimated them, but for revenge, I wouldn't even flinch at sacrificing myself. Just then, some detectives showed up and said that Hairy Mouth ratted out the Falcon gang for breaking his nose. So everyone, you're coming with me to the station. Seeing Tatsuya, the smug Four Eyes said, this kid didn't listen to my warning, so he deserves to go to jail. Tatsuya protested, I haven't hit anyone, why are you lying? Seeing this, Atsushi spoke up. He's an outsider, not a member of the Hawk Gang. To demonstrate that, Atsushi immediately interacted physically with Tatsuya, and then gave him instructions. If anything happens to us, please take care of Kaname and Bowl-Cut. After everyone was taken away, only Tatsuya and Chihiro remained. He sat by his hospital bed until midnight, trying to have a heart-to-heart. but his buddy was still playing the deep sleep role, so he hadn't woken up yet. Tatsuya folded a paper crane, sending his best wishes to his poor, unfortunate friend. Chihiro was super sleepy, so she headed home first with her cousin, Keiji. Suddenly, a car came out of nowhere. It was Kazumasa and his crew. Keiji jumped up to protect his older sister, but got beaten relentlessly, wielding nunchucks with a wrench attached. Kenzo slammed the young guy on the head, hard. Determined not to let his sister get taken, Keiji lunged and grabbed a leg, but was kicked away by Kazumasa. The thugs dragged the beauty into the car and sped off, but Keiji managed to grab onto the door. "If you want to save your sister, come to the abandoned factory." With that, the driver swerved and veered into a junkyard to shake off the kid. After being interrogated, the scheming four-eyed detective immediately released the Hawk Gang leaders. His underling asked why they were letting the tigers back into the wild, and he replied, "You think you're so smart, you idiot? Let them beat the crap out of each other first, and then we'll swoop in and catch them all." Just then, the guy with glasses who's good at kendo told Ryo, "I think you gave away the location of the secret base. I saw you going out to answer the phone a bunch of times last night." No further questioning was needed. Ryo bowed his head in apology and revealed the truth that he was threatened by Kazumasa. If he didn't talk, his sister would be harmed. This made the other gang members furious. However, gang leader Atsushi resolved the issue by expelling him from the gang. Having lost all face, the guy had no choice but to leave. Right then, the blonde-haired guy in the cap received news that Chihiro had been kidnapped by the hunting dogs. Everyone asked the gang leader what to do, and Atsushi replied, "It's come to this. We have to take matters into our own hands." One of them wondered how they could fight them off. The guy with glasses agreed, "Yeah, that's right. Our guys are either laid up in the hospital or cooling their heels at the police station." Before leaving, Atsushi said, "If you guys are scared, just stay home." Because of this, everyone's spirits were instantly fired up to follow. On the other side, Tatsuya and his aunt and uncle were cleaning up the mess. He apologized for dragging them into this trouble. "I tried not to fight back, but they just kept coming." His uncle, despite being old, knew right from wrong, because with punks like that, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Just go kick their asses. After hearing these words, Chihiro's cousin arrived with the news. Hearing this like a bolt from the blue, Tatsuya knew what he had to do. As he reached the bridge, he ran into the four guys from the Hawk Gang. The six of them, without a word, headed straight for the abandoned factory to rescue Chihiro. They came prepared, with 100 guys armed to the teeth, ready to rumble. Kazumasa said, "Today's the day you six meet your maker. If you're so tough, come in and save her." Atsushi cracked a smile, and then they all charged in. A battle broke out. Although they were outnumbered, these small-time punks were no match for the six big shots. With a steel pipe in hand, Tatsuya bashed them until they were dizzy and crying out in pain. Facing off against these top fighters, the hunting dogs could only scream and cry. Koji faced off against the curly-haired guy. This time he was like he was on steroids, incredibly strong. The kendo fighter also jumped in, but was hit in his abdominal wound, causing him immense pain. They were outnumbered, so it seemed like the six were in a tough spot. Just then, a car sped up and blocked the entrance. It was none other than Ryo. He said he couldn't just walk away after making a mistake. Koji tried to crawl out past the car, but was kicked back by Atsushi. Taking advantage of the car blocking the secret passage entrance, the kendo fighter and Tatsuya went inside to rescue Chihiro, leaving the others to guard the door and take out the small fries outside. There are only 4 of them left, but they absolutely must protect this vital route. Inside, the 3 wives, Atsushi, Tatsuya, and the kendo fighter, try to push deep into the secret passage. As they rush upwards, they're suddenly met by Koji blocking their way. The kendo fighter tells the other 2 to go rescue Chihiro. "Leave this guy to me." "Yeah, you should beat the crap out of him." Then Tatsuya tricks Koji and whacks him on the head before leaving. Furious, he ordered his goons to attack the kendo fighter, alone and still suffering from the abdominal wound, but with his back against the wall. He seemed to be fueled with an extra 500% power, striking down every single one of these punks. Right then and there. Upstairs, Tatsuya and Atsushi reached the floor where Chihiro was held captive. Kenzo said, "Has your friend Kaname kicked the bucket yet?" "So it was you." Then, Tatsuya tells Atsushi to go find Kazumasa, while he stays behind to avenge his friend and rescue the girl. Right after, Tatsuya charges in. His strength is no joke. These guys barely touch a single curly hair on him, and they're already getting wrecked. One guy falls into a pipe, another gets kicked in the groin, losing 2 eggs. On the rooftop, Atsushi appears like a god. Kazumasa sends his goons after him. but none of them are a match. He truly lives up to his name as the boss of the Falcon Gang. Atsushi sent each one of them to an early grave right there. Down below, the kendo fighter was facing off against Koji. He was too strong, knocking away the fighter's weapon with one hit, and engaging in close combat. Indeed, the kendo fighter was no match for him. Throwing the sword away, he said, "Let's see what you'll fight with now." The kendo fighter calmly replied, "I have an imaginary sword." The kendo fighter charged in, his hands moving as if he were wielding a weapon. Although his movements were incredibly agile, Koji's punches were too powerful. He tried to twist Koji's arm, but he was lifted to the ceiling instead. Then a knee to the face left the kendo fighter in agony, with a mouth looking like he was chewing betel nut, all red. Yet he still managed to smile, which infuriated Koji even more, making him charge in, throwing punches as big as melons. However, unexpectedly, the kendo fighter landed a blow to his temple, dazing him, then threw a punch but got his arm caught, and then he got hit right in the abdominal wound. The kendo fighter seized the opportunity to break the guy's leg, making him fall to the ground, unable to resist. Finally, he landed a finishing blow to the face, knocking him out cold right there. On the upper floor, Tatsuya had taken down the last guy, facing off against the nunchuck-wielding Kenzo, the one who took down his friend Kanami. He couldn't go easy on him. Annoyed, he pulled out his wrench nunchucks and charged in. Getting hit by those would mean either a coffin or a long hospital stay. Tatsuya quickly grabbed one end of the wrench, then swung around and slammed him to the ground. He threw away the weapon like a flying nunchuck. When Kenzo charged in, he met him with hand-to-hand combat. This ain't no freshly roasted bean, but Kenzo's no slouch either. He's got Tatsuya backed into the wall, then lands a shot to the chest, pushing him into the stereo system. Out of nowhere, Tatsuya counters with a double flying kick, hitting Kenzo right in the chest. Trying to get up, both guys are gassed, but they're still throwing haymakers. They're wobbly on their feet, but the moves are still legit. In a split-second lapse of attention, Tatsuya let the guy knock him out, then continuously pounded him into the ground in sheer agony. Spotting Chihiro, Tatsuya shoved his enemy away and tried to get up to show off. He charged in, thinking it'd be easy, but Kenzo was still way too tough, beating him up and ruining his image. Right at this moment, Tatsuya recalled a move that his buddy Kanami had taught him. So he used it, and sure enough, it made Kenzo fall flat on the floor. Grabbing this jerk and pulling him up, he gave him back exactly what he had done to Kanami, then followed up with a special technique of rapid fire punches to the face to finish him off right there. Up on the rooftop, Atsushi was facing off against Kazumasa. Taking advantage of his locking techniques, he quickly wrestled his opponent to the ground. However, Atsushi broke free and showed him the power of karate. His long legs seemed useless. After taking a blow to the head, Kazumasa staggered and was cornered. In this desperate situation, Kazumasa quickly tried a necklock, but Atsushi broke free, forcing him to kick away. He pulled out a knife for a cheap shot, then charged, not forgetting to use his special leg lock technique. However, Atsushi was too fast, and he couldn't pull it off. Atsushi gave him a shot to the head and a kick to the face. Showing no mercy, Atsushi just kept wrecking this guy's face. He went down and saw that Tatsuya had also won against Kenzo. They'd rescued the girl, Chihiro, but then, out of nowhere, Kazumasa showed up. Atsushi and Tatsuya were about to jump him, but the dude pulled out a gun. Tatsuya said it was probably just a fake, so Kazumasa fired a shot into the air to prove it wasn't. "You two are gonna die. No matter how good your martial arts are, you can't beat my handgun." Outside, the four other brothers are also trying to deal with these punks. A sumo wrestler is trying to suffocate the curly-haired guy with his fat belly, but luckily, his teammate arrives to save him. Right after that, the two team up to give this super-sized giant a beatdown. Ryo is also pushing these guys to their limits. Chihiro's cousin, Keiji, is also putting up a good fight, smashing these dogs until their snouts break. Up above, Kenzo has awakened, making Kazumasa very pleased. However, as he's about to make a move, his henchman suddenly whacks him on the head, then says, "You guys go, I'll handle this one." Before Tatsuya can even understand what's going on, Atsushi picks up the gun and is about to finish off Kazumasa for all the terrible things he's done. However, Kenzo stops him and says, "I have to be the one to do it. He's the reason I've had to wear a mask my entire life, so this is my chance for revenge." Just then, they hear police sirens approaching. The four brothers down below quickly jump onto Ryo's Napoleon-era ride and make a run for it. Tatsuya also convinces Atsushi to stop, so he tosses the gun back, and the three of them escape through the back door. After Kenzo takes care of Kazumasa, he goes downstairs. The four-eyed inspector asks where the Falcon Gang is, demanding that he spill the beans or face a hard time. Kenzo calmly replies, "This was an internal fight within the hunters. There was no one else." The furious inspector goes inside, only to find that everyone's gone. Tatsuya, Atsushi, and Chihiro have already fled. At the hospital, Kaname also wakes up from her daze. Finally, everything is over, and life here returns to normal. This film shows us that those scumbags who make money at the expense of others' lives will always face a bitter end. The law of karma spares no one. Tatsuya has Kaname and his girlfriend Chihiro, but do you have anyone yet? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to support me. I love you. Bye-bye.